Um, let's talk about cities then and influence on Bowie. Because he lived in different cities. I mean, Philly, he had Young Americans, and of course, Berlin, his Berlin period in New York City. Um,
Los Angeles, which he
well, Los
called.
An- yeah, well, of course there was LA, but and what was your favorite Bowie city era? Let's just say.
Boy, that's an interesting question. I mean, the first one that would obviously come to mind for me would be Berlin, because that's my whole period that I like the most. And I love that
Mm-hmm.
we got two great Iggy Pop albums out of that time as
Yeah.
well. And a lot of creativity and a lot of really interesting, production techniques. We got Robert Fripp. And then really we saw those production techniques kind of get reinvented, and the inspiration moving forward into the likes of the next period of Genesis and Peter Gabriel. I think they led to my favorite David Bowie albums as well coming out of that. But New York as well. You think of the quality of the Next Day and Black Star and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then so he was still creatively energized, by living in that tight space with all these creative people around that none of us ever know the names of, because he just works with great people. They don't have to be famous people, right? So that's kind of interesting as well. You've got that there, and then yeah, the one album coming out of the LA period was awesome as well. And yeah, Young Americans. So we've got see what is the year? Yeah, so Young Americans is 75, Station to Station is 76. So that's the one that we, I guess, can semi consider an LA album, even though it's really quite a Berlin album in a lot of ways as
More a
well.
white album, Station to Station, as in a lot of cocaine going on in that
Yeah,
that album.
and it's funny. I mean, it's oddly an evolution between young Americans and the
Mhm.
Berlin period, which is kind of interesting to see.
So Berlin is the answer, Dave.
Switzerland too, right? Because Switzerland is more or less the that's more or less the Lodger period, right? And
So
then
and
Scary Monsters.
what was it about Berlin that you think affected his sound or changed his sound?
Well, they loved that whole decadent, thinking about 20s Berlin thing. Iggy was there. They're living in an apartment together. They're trying to get clean. So they're working pretty hard. He always worked hard, anyways. Brian Eno, that was super important. Yeah, just the darkness and the the communism threat, all that sort of stuff, all mixed up together. It's just, I think they considered a very artistic city. But yeah, just living together in that apartment and going to the studio and working, it just seemed like a really cool, creative place. I guess they still sort of had their drug demons and all that sort of stuff, but I guess they're away from most of their own hangers on and distractions.
Was that on purpose? Do you think to leave it all and go to
Yeah,
an artistic city, but away from
yeah, that was
temptation?
kind of the plan. The kind of
Yeah.
the plan was to try to get clean, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
I think just Brian Eno could probably sum it up. Berlin, the sound, I mean.
Yeah.
Um,
And those Brian Eno albums, just the ones with the vocals, I could care less about listening to Paint Dry on Music for Airports and all that kind of stuff. But Here Come the Warm Jets and Another Green World and Taking Tiger Mountain and Before After. So there's 4 of them, right? I mean, I probably like every one of those 4 albums better than any Bowie album, except for maybe Scary Monsters.
Okay.
Yeah, love those records.
And what is it about Scary Monsters that makes it your ultimate Bowie album?
Lots of Robert Fripp, lots of great songs. Let me look at it here. I mean, side 2 is one of the greatest sides of all time by anybody. I just love side 2. Teenage Wildlife's got one of my favorite Robert Fripp solos of all time. Scream Like a Baby, Kingdom Come, Because You're Young, It's No Game Part 2, It's No Game Part 1 on side 1. I love the song Scary Monsters. It's got great sounds, like really cool, interesting electronic sounds and stuff, but it's way more songful than the whole Berlin period, but it's probably as artistic and strange. Yeah, Ashes to Ashes I love. Fashion I don't like very much. I find it kind of sing-songy and and childishy of melody, I suppose. Up the Hill Backwards is okay as well. Yeah, it's just chock full of great sounds. I like Lodger quite a bit too. I've been playing Lodger a lot, but Lodger's much more eclectic. I'd say with Bowie, quite often it's the fact that when those melodies come through, when there's lots of good strong melodies and good songwriting, that's why I like Hours. You're not supposed to like the Hours album, but I love the Hours album. It's acoustic and soft, and yeah, perfect.
So do you have a, like with metal, you have a how metal is this metal song? How Bowie is, what is a 10 Bowie song that combines all elements of Bowie?
Wow.
Or something like when you think of Bowie, if you were going to teach a 10-year-old what Bowie is, like,
Well,
play him one song.
I would say Heroes. Heroes is such a massive hit, such a gorgeous song. It wasn't even a big hit at the time. Co-written by Brian Eno, huge melody, great sounds. Robert Fripp solo, I believe. Yes, Robert Fripp. I'm pretty sure. Let me look at it here. I'm pretty sure that's an iconic Fripp solo. Sometimes you got to be careful because you never know when somebody's playing like Robert Fripp, right? That can happen too. Yeah, it is Robert Fripp, and Carlos Alamar's on it too on rhythm guitar.
Nice.
But yeah, George Murray, Dennis Davis. You don't think of these guys; they aren't famous guys, right? But yeah, they're on the most iconic Bowie material. So yeah, pretty cool.